Tonight, I'm going to tell you 5 true stories about people who moved into new houses. And every single one of them wished they had never signed those papers. Every single one of them learned that some houses have secrets. Dark secrets. Deadly secrets. So turn off your lights. Lock your door. Make sure you're alone. Or maybe make sure you're not alone. Because after you hear these stories, you're going to be scared. Very scared. And you might start looking at your own house differently. Story 1. The Breathing Walls. Sarah had been dreaming about owning a house for years. Not an apartment. Not a rental. A real house with a yard and a garage and a white picket fence. Her husband Michael wanted the same thing. They were both 28 years old. They both had good jobs. They had saved money. They were ready. But finding a house was hard. Really hard. Every house they looked at had problems. One house was too small. Another house was in a bad neighborhood. Another house needed too many repairs. And the houses they really liked? Way too expensive. Way over their budget. 6 months went by. 6 long months of looking at houses every weekend. 6 months of getting their hopes up and then feeling disappointed. Sarah was starting to lose hope. Maybe they would never find the right house. Maybe they would be stuck renting forever. Then one Tuesday morning, Sarah's phone rang. It was their real estate agent, Linda. Linda sounded excited. "Sarah! I found it! I found your perfect house." Sarah's heart started beating faster. "Really? Tell me about it." 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, updated kitchen with granite counters, huge backyard, 2-car garage, and get this, it's $30,000 under your budget. Sarah couldn't believe it. Under budget? In this crazy housing market where everything was overpriced? Something seemed off. "Linda, why is it so cheap? What's wrong with it?" There was a pause. A small pause. But Sarah noticed it. Linda was quiet for just 2 seconds too long. "Nothing's wrong with it, honey. The owners just need to sell fast. They're relocating for work. They're motivated sellers. That's all. Trust me, this house is perfect for you and Michael." That evening, Sarah and Michael drove to see the house. It was located at 1247 Maple Grove Road, the last house on a dead-end street. Trees surrounded it on 3 sides. Big, thick trees that blocked the view of any neighbors. The house stood alone. Isolated. Private. As they pulled up, Sarah looked at the house through the car window. It was beautiful. A 2-story colonial-style house painted white with black shutters. It had a big front porch with pillars. The lawn was green and freshly cut. Flowers grew in neat beds along the walkway. "Wow," Michael whispered. "It's gorgeous," Sarah agreed. The house was gorgeous. But as she opened the car door and stepped out, something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. The day was hot. It was August. The temperature was 90 degrees. The sun was shining bright. But Sarah felt cold. Ice cold. Goosebumps appeared on her arms. The tiny hairs on the back of her neck stood up. She looked at the house again. The windows were dark. They looked like empty eyes staring back at her. The front door was closed tight like a mouth keeping secrets inside. "You okay, babe?" Michael asked. He was already walking toward the front porch, eager to go inside. "Yeah," Sarah lied. "I'm fine." Linda was waiting for them at the front door. She was smiling big, too big. Her smile looked fake, forced. Her eyes looked tired. There were dark circles under them like she hadn't slept well. "Welcome. Are you ready to see your new home?" Linda's voice was cheerful, but something about it seemed off, strained. She unlocked the door and pushed it open. The 3 of them stepped inside. The inside of the house was even better than the outside. The entryway had shiny hardwood floors. The walls were painted a soft cream color. To the left was a large living room with a fireplace. To the right was a dining room with a beautiful chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Straight ahead, Sarah could see into the kitchen. Stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, an island in the middle with bar stools. "Oh my God," Sarah breathed. "Michael, look at this place!" Michael was grinning ear to ear. He walked around touching everything. The walls, the counters, the cabinets. He looked like a kid in a toy store. Linda showed them every room. The downstairs bathroom had new tile and a modern sink. The family room in the back had big windows overlooking the backyard. Upstairs, there were 3 bedrooms. The master bedroom was huge. It had a walk-in closet bigger than their current bedroom. The bathroom had a jacuzzi tub and a separate shower. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. But Sarah noticed something strange. In every single room, the walls had little holes. Tiny holes. Each one was about the size of a pencil eraser, maybe smaller. They were everywhere, scattered across the walls in random patterns. Some walls had 5 or 6 holes. Other walls had dozens. In the master bedroom, Sarah walked up to the wall beside the bed. She counted the holes. 15 holes in just that one section of wall. She touched one with her finger. It was deep. Her fingertip went in about half an inch before hitting something solid. "Linda, what are these holes from?" Sarah asked. Linda walked over and looked at the wall. Her smile got smaller, tighter. "Oh, those. The previous owners had a lot of pictures and decorations on the walls. You know how it is. People hang things up with nails. You can just fill those in with spackle. Super easy fix." But that answer didn't make sense to Sarah. These holes weren't where you would hang pictures. Pictures go at eye level, right? These holes were all over the place. Some were down near the baseboards, just inches from the floor. Others were high up near the ceiling. Some were clustered together in the corners of rooms. It looked random, chaotic, like someone had poked the walls over and over with something sharp, and there were so many of them. Sarah started counting in the master bedroom. She stopped at 50. There were at least 50 holes just in that one room. "Michael, don't you think these holes are weird?" Sarah asked. But Michael wasn't listening. He was leaning out the bedroom window, looking at the backyard. "Babe, come look at this yard. It's huge. We could put a pool back there, and a fire pit. We could have barbecues every weekend." He wasn't concerned about the holes. He just saw the house he wanted, the house he had been dreaming about. They went back downstairs. Linda showed them the basement. It was unfinished but dry. No water damage, no mold. The furnace and water heater were new. By the time they got back to the main floor, Michael had made up his mind. "We want it," he said. "We'll make an offer today." Sarah felt uneasy. Something about this house felt wrong. But she looked at Michael's happy face. She thought about the beautiful kitchen, the big backyard, the master bathroom with the jacuzzi tub, and the price. They could actually afford this place. Maybe she was just being paranoid. Maybe the weird feeling would go away once they moved in and made it their own. "Okay," Sarah said. "Let's do it." They made an offer that same day. The sellers accepted immediately. No negotiation, no counteroffer. They just said yes. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday morning in September, Sarah and Michael moved into their new house. The moving truck arrived at 9 in the morning. Sarah and Michael spent all day carrying boxes inside, arranging furniture, unpacking their lives into this new space. By 8 o'clock that night, they were exhausted, sweaty, hungry, surrounded by half-empty boxes. Michael ordered pizza. They ate it sitting on the floor of their new living room because they hadn't set up the dining table yet. They drank wine straight from the bottle. They laughed. They kissed. They felt happy and excited and hopeful about their future in this house. Around midnight, they finally went upstairs to their bedroom. They had managed to set up the bed at least. Sarah fell asleep within minutes. She was so tired. Her body was sore from moving furniture all day. She slept deep and hard until she woke up. Sarah's eyes opened suddenly. She was confused, disoriented. What had woken her? She looked at the clock on the nightstand. Down 17 a.m. The room was dark except for thin strips of moonlight coming through the gaps in the curtains. Next to her, Michael was snoring softly. Everything looked normal. Everything was quiet. But something had pulled Sarah from sleep. Some sound or feeling or presence. She lay very still, listening. Her eyes adjusted to the darkness. She could see the shapes of boxes stacked against the wall. The outline of their dresser, the open door of the walk-in closet. Then she felt it. The sensation of being watched. You know that feeling, right? When you just know someone is looking at you even though you can't see them. That prickly feeling on the back of your neck? Sarah felt it now. Strong, overwhelming. Like someone was standing right next to the bed, staring down at her in the darkness. She wanted to turn on the lamp. She wanted to wake Michael. But she was frozen, paralyzed by fear. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. And then she heard the sound. Breathing. Soft at first. So soft she thought maybe she was imagining it. But no, it was real. Someone or something was breathing. Close, very close. But it wasn't Michael. His snoring had a rhythm. She knew that sound. This was different. This breathing was coming from somewhere else. Sarah held her own breath and listened harder. The breathing was coming from the wall. The wall right next to her side of the bed. It sounded like someone was pressed up against the other side of the wall, breathing slowly. In and out. In and out. No, that was crazy. That was impossible. There was no one in the wall. It must be pipes. Old houses have pipes in the walls, right? And pipes make noises, gurgling sounds, hissing sounds. Maybe that's what she was hearing. But pipes don't breathe. Pipes don't inhale and exhale with a steady rhythm. Sarah reached over and shook Michael's shoulder. Michael. Michael, wake up, he groaned and rolled onto his back. What's wrong? Be quiet and listen, Sarah whispered. Her voice was shaking. They both lay there in the darkness, silent, listening. At first there was nothing, just the normal sounds of a house at night, the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, the settling of the foundation. Then Michael's eyes went wide. He heard it too, the breathing, coming from inside the wall, slow and wet and labored, like someone struggling to get air into damaged lungs. What the hell is that? Michael sat up fast. His voice was high and tight with fear. The breathing got louder, faster, like whatever was in the wall knew they were awake now, knew they were listening. Michael jumped out of bed and ran to the light switch. He flipped it on. The bedroom flooded with bright light. The breathing stopped instantly, cut off like someone had pressed a mute button. Sarah and Michael stared at the wall. Just white paint, just those weird little holes scattered across the surface. Nothing moving. Nothing breathing. What was that? Sarah's voice came out as a whisper. Michael walked over to the wall. He pressed his ear against it, listened. I don't hear anything now. But you heard it before, right? I'm not crazy? Yeah, I heard it. Michael ran his hand through his hair. He looked pale, shaken. It's probably just the pipes. Old houses make weird sounds, you know? The plumbing, the heating system, it's all connected through the walls. That's probably what we heard. Sarah wanted to believe that. She needed to believe that. But deep in her gut, she knew it wasn't pipes. Pipes don't sound like breathing. Pipes don't sound alive. Let's just try to get some sleep, Michael said. But he left the light on. They both lay back down, but neither of them closed their eyes. They just stared at the ceiling until the sun started to rise. The next morning, Michael tried to act like everything was normal. He made coffee. He made jokes. He talked about all the things they needed to do to the house. Painting, decorating, landscaping. We should call a plumber, though, he said. Get them to check out the pipes. Make sure everything's working right. Yeah, Sarah agreed. But she knew a plumber wouldn't find anything wrong, because the problem wasn't the pipes. That second night, Sarah was in the kitchen unpacking boxes of dishes. It was around 8 o'clock. Still light outside. Michael was upstairs putting together a bookshelf in the spare bedroom. Sarah was placing plates into the cabinet when she heard it again. Breathing, right behind her. She spun around fast. The kitchen was empty. No one there, just boxes and the island and the refrigerator humming quietly. But the breathing continued. It was coming from the wall behind her. The wall with all those little holes. Sarah's hands started shaking. She backed away from the wall, watching it. The breathing moved. She could hear it traveling along the wall, following her as she stepped backward, like something was crawling inside the wall, tracking her movements. The breathing got louder, closer. She could hear wetness in it now. A thick gurgling sound, like someone drowning, or like something with too much saliva in its throat. Then came another sound, a scratching, nails or claws dragging against the inside of the drywall. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Moving along behind her as she backed toward the doorway. Michael, Sarah screamed. Michael, get down here. She heard his footsteps pounding down the stairs. He ran into the kitchen. What's wrong? Sarah pointed at the wall with a trembling finger. Listen. Just listen. They both stood frozen, silent. The breathing was so loud now. So close, right on the other side of the wall. And the scratching. Dozens of scratching sounds, like 100 fingernails scraping against the drywall from the inside. Michael's face went white. He walked slowly to the wall and pressed his ear against it. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Oh my God, there's something in there. What do we do?" Sarah was crying now, tears running down her face. Michael looked around the kitchen. His eyes landed on his toolbox in the corner. He walked over and grabbed a hammer. "I'm opening this wall." "Michael, wait." But he was already swinging. The hammer punched through the drywall easily. White dust exploded into the air. Michael made the hole bigger, tearing away chunks of wall with his hands. Pieces fell to the floor. More dust filled the kitchen. When the hole was big enough, Michael pulled his phone from his pocket and turned on the flashlight. He shined it into the dark space between the walls. Then he dropped the phone. It clattered on the floor, the light spinning wildly. "No," Michael said. His voice sounded broken, horrified. "No, no, 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 no." Sarah didn't want to look. Every part of her body screamed at her not to look. But she had to. She had to see. She picked up the phone and shined the light into the wall. What she saw would haunt her for the rest of her life. The space between the walls was filled with them. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They hung from the wooden beams like rotten fruit on dead branches. Cocoons. That's the only word for them. They looked like cocoons. Each one was about the size of a football. They were made of some kind of gray papery material, like wasp nests but denser, more solid, and they were all moving, pulsing, expanding and contracting, breathing. Sarah's stomach lurched. She thought she was going to vomit. Inside each cocoon was something alive. She could see dark shapes moving inside the gray shells. Something growing, something waiting, and the smell. Oh God, the smell that came from inside the wall. It was the worst thing Sarah had ever smelled. Like rotting meat mixed with sour milk and chemicals. The smell of death and decay and something else. Something wrong. As they watched, frozen in horror, one of the cocoons near the opening began to split. A crack appeared down the middle. Something dark pushed against it from the inside. Something wet. Something that wanted out. Michael grabbed Sarah's arm. "We need to leave. Right now." They ran. They didn't pack anything. They didn't grab their phones or their wallets or their car keys. Wait. Yes, they did grab the keys. Michael had them in his pocket. They ran out of the house and jumped in the car, and Michael drove. Sarah looked back at the house as they sped away. In the kitchen window, she could see movement. Shadows crawling, things emerging. They drove to a hotel and checked in. They sat on the bed, shaking, not speaking, trying to process what they had seen. The next morning, Michael started calling exterminators. He called 5 companies. He explained what they found. Each company said the same thing. They couldn't help. They didn't deal with that kind of problem. One guy even laughed and said Michael was pranking him. Finally, Michael found a number online for a company that dealt with unusual pest problems. An old man answered. His voice was rough like gravel, like he'd been smoking for 50 years. "Yeah, I'll come take a look," the old man said. "Give me the address." His name was Frank. He showed up 2 hours later driving a beat-up truck. He was probably 70 years old. Gray beard, wrinkled skin. But his eyes were sharp, alert. He didn't say much. Just nodded at Michael and Sarah and walked into the house. They waited outside. Too scared to go back in, Frank was inside for maybe 5 minutes. When he came back out, his face was pale. His hands were shaking as he lit a cigarette. "You need to leave this house," Frank said. "And you need to burn it down." "What?" Sarah felt dizzy. "What are they? What's in our walls?" Frank took a long drag on his cigarette. He looked old, tired, like he'd seen things he wished he hadn't. "I've only seen this once before, 30 years ago. Different state, same problem. We call them wall borers. That's not their real name. I don't think they have a real name. Nobody knows what they are. Not insects, not animals, something else. But what do they do?" Michael asked. His voice was shaking. Frank looked at the house. "They lay eggs inside walls. Hundreds of eggs. The eggs hatch into larvae. The larvae spin those cocoons, and then they wait. They wait until they sense warmth, human breath. That's what they feed on." Sarah felt her legs go weak. "Feed on? What do you mean?" "At night when you're sleeping, they come out. Through those little holes in the walls. They're small enough to fit through. They crawl to where you're sleeping, and they feed. They attach themselves to your skin. Your mouth, your nose. They feed on your breath, your warmth, your life force, I guess you could call it. Slowly, night after night. Until there's nothing left. Michael made a choking sound. Oh God, we slept in that house. 2 nights. Did they feed on us? Frank looked at them. Really looked at them, like he was examining them. You look okay, healthy. My guess is they weren't fully mature yet. You got lucky. Another week or 2 and they would have been ready. That's when they get aggressive. That's when they get hungry. Sarah remembered the holes. All those tiny holes throughout the entire house. Thousands of feeding tubes. Thousands of those things waiting to emerge at night. The previous owners, Sarah said suddenly. Her voice was hollow. The people who lived here before us. What happened to them? Frank's expression changed. He looked sad and scared. Call the police. Tell them to check the walls. Check all the walls in every room. They called the police. The police came. They searched the house. What they found made the news. The bodies of the previous owners were inside the walls. Not buried, not hidden in the basement or the attic. Inside the walls themselves, behind the drywall in the master bedroom. They had been there for months. Maybe a year. The police couldn't tell exactly. But what the bodies looked like? That was the worst part. The news didn't show pictures, thank God. But the police described them to Michael and Sarah. The bodies were dried out, mummified, but not naturally. It looked like everything inside them had been sucked out. Their skin was like paper. Their eyes were gone. Their mouths were open in permanent screams. The official police report said, death by unknown cause. But Sarah and Michael knew the cause. They had seen what was in the walls. They never went back to the house. They broke their mortgage. The bank threatened to sue them. Their credit was destroyed. They lost all the money they had saved. They had to move in with Michael's parents. But they were alive. The house on Maple Grove Road still stands there. Empty again. Every few months, a new for sale sign appears in the yard. New real estate agents. New hopeful buyers. The price keeps dropping. Some people go to look at it. Some people even make offers. But something always stops them. Maybe they hear the breathing in the walls. Maybe they see the holes. Maybe they just feel something wrong and listen to their gut. The house waits, patient, hungry, because some houses don't want to be empty. Some houses need to feed. And somewhere in America, right now, there's another young couple looking at houses online. They're excited. They're hopeful. And they just found a beautiful house at an amazing price. Maybe that house is on your street. Maybe it's next door to you. Maybe it's your house. When's the last time you really looked at your walls? Story 2. The door in the basement. Tom Henderson loved his family more than anything in the world. His wife Jennifer, his daughter Emma, age 10, his son Lucas, age 7. They were everything to him, and he wanted to give them a better life. A life outside the city. A life with space and fresh air and room to grow. That's why when Jennifer said she wanted to move to the country, Tom agreed immediately. He hated the city anyway. The noise, the traffic, the concrete everywhere. He dreamed of land, trees, peace and quiet. They started looking at houses in Pennsylvania. Rural Pennsylvania. Farm country, where you could buy 10 or 20 acres for the price of a tiny city apartment. That's when they found the farmhouse. It was located about 40 minutes outside of Harrisburg, way out in the country, down a long dirt road, surrounded by fields and forests. The house itself was old, really old. The listing said it was built in 1887, over 130 years old. The house was white with peeling paint. It had a big porch that wrapped around the front. Upstairs were 4 bedrooms. Downstairs was a living room, dining room, kitchen, and 1 bathroom. Out back was a barn that was falling apart. And the property? 20 acres of rolling hills and woods. The price was incredible. Way below market value. Tom couldn't believe it. Why is it so cheap? He asked the real estate agent. Her name was Carol. She was a local woman, probably in her 50s. Carol hesitated. Just for a moment. The previous owner passed away. He had no family, no kids. The estate is selling it. They just want it gone. How did he die? Jennifer asked. Old age, Carol said quickly. Too quickly. He was elderly. Lived alone. One day the mailman noticed mail piling up. Called the police. They found him inside. Natural causes. Something about the way Carol said it didn't sit right with Tom. But the house was perfect. And the price was incredible. And his kids' eyes lit up when they saw all the space to run and play. They bought the house. The estate accepted their offer the same day. No inspection required. No questions asked. Just sign here and here, and the house is yours. 1 month later, the Hendersons moved in. The first few weeks were amazing. Tom and Jennifer painted rooms. They fixed broken cabinets. They pulled up old carpet and found beautiful hardwood underneath. The kids explored the property every day, finding new places to play. At night, they sat on the porch and listened to the crickets and frogs. No car horns, no sirens. Just nature. Peace. Tom thought this was the best decision they'd ever made. Then he decided to clean out the basement. The basement was typical for an old farmhouse. You accessed it through a door in the kitchen. Wooden stairs led down into darkness. The basement was big, probably the same size as the entire first floor. It had stone walls and a dirt floor, no windows, just one light bulb hanging from the ceiling. It smelled like earth and mold and time. That old smell. The smell of 100 years of dampness and decay. Most of the basement was empty. The previous owner had left some old furniture. A broken chair, a table with 3 legs, some shelves made of rotting wood, dozens of canning jars covered in dust and spider webs. Tom spent a Saturday afternoon down there, hauling junk up the stairs and out to the trash pile. He was almost done. The basement was nearly empty. Just one more corner to clear out. In the far back corner, hidden behind a tall wooden shelf, Tom noticed something strange. A door. He pulled the shelf away from the wall. It was heavy and covered in cobwebs. When he moved it aside, he could see the door clearly. It was old. Really old. Made of thick wood that was almost black with age. The wood was rough and covered with deep carving marks. At first, Tom thought the marks were just damage from age. But then he looked closer. They were symbols, carved into the wood, dozens of symbols that Tom didn't recognize. They looked ancient, like something from another language, another time. And there were words carved across the top of the door, words in a language Tom couldn't read. The letters looked like Latin, maybe, or something older. But the strangest thing about the door was the locks. It had 7 locks, 7 thick padlocks made of heavy metal. They were old and covered in rust. All 7 locks were closed tight. Tom stood there staring at the door. His mind was racing with questions. Why would someone put 7 locks on a basement door? What was behind it? Why were those symbols carved into the wood? "Jen!" Tom called up the stairs. "Jennifer, can you come down here?" He heard her footsteps above. Then she appeared at the top of the stairs. "What's up?" "Come look at this." Jennifer came down the stairs carefully. Tom led her to the back corner and showed her the door. Jennifer stopped walking. She just stood there, staring. Her face went pale. "Tom," she said quietly, "I don't like that." "What do you mean?" "That door. Something about it feels wrong." "Really wrong?" Tom laughed. "Come on, it's just a door. Probably leads to an old root cellar. You know, where they used to store vegetables before refrigerators existed. Then why does it have 7 locks? I don't know. Maybe the guy was paranoid. Maybe he stored valuables back there. Could be something cool. Could be worth money." Jennifer shook her head. "I think we should leave it alone." "Are you serious? Aren't you curious about what's back there?" "No, I'm not. Tom, please, let's just leave it." But Tom was already examining the locks. He pulled on them. They were solid. Old but strong. "I'm gonna cut these off. I've got bolt cutters in the garage." "Tom, no." "Jen, it's our house. We have a right to see what's in our own house. It's probably nothing. Old furniture, canned goods, maybe some antiques we can sell." Jennifer wrapped her arms around herself. The basement suddenly felt very cold. "I have a bad feeling about this. Please, let's just leave it locked." "Don't be silly. It's just a door." Tom went upstairs to get his bolt cutters. Jennifer followed him up. She didn't want to stay down there alone with that door. "I'm serious, Tom," Jennifer said. "Don't open it." "Why are you so scared?" "It's literally just a door. I don't know. I feel like something bad will happen if you open it." "You're being superstitious. There's nothing to worry about." But Jennifer's hands wouldn't stop shaking. The next day was Monday. Jennifer had to go to her new job in town. The kids had their first day at the new school. Tom had taken the week off work to finish unpacking and doing repairs on the house. So that Monday morning, Tom was home alone. He tried to focus on other things. Painting the bathroom, fixing the leaky faucet in the kitchen, but his mind kept going back to that door. What was behind it? Why so many locks? What were those symbols carved into the wood? His curiosity was eating at him. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, Tom made a decision. He went to the garage and got his bolt cutters. Big, heavy-duty bolt cutters that could cut through anything. He went down to the basement. The door was waiting. Silent. Still. The symbols carved into its surface seemed to move in the dim light. Probably just shadows, Tom told himself. He approached the door. His footsteps were loud on the dirt floor. His heart was beating faster than normal. Why was he nervous? It was just a door. Tom positioned the bolt cutters around the first lock. He squeezed the handles. The metal of the lock resisted. He squeezed harder. Put all his strength into it. The lock broke with a loud crack. It fell to the dirt floor. 6 locks left. Tom moved to the second lock. This one was harder. The metal was thicker. He had to really work at it. Sweat formed on his forehead. Finally, the lock gave way. Crack. It fell. 5 locks left. As Tom broke the third lock, he noticed something. The temperature in the basement had dropped. It was cold now. Really cold. He could see his own breath forming clouds in the air. That was weird. It was September. Still warm outside. Why was it so cold down here suddenly? 4 locks left. As Tom broke the 4th lock, he heard something. A sound coming from the other side of the door. A low sound, deep. It sounded like humming? No. Chanting. A low voice chanting in a language Tom didn't recognize. Tom froze. He stared at the door. The sound stopped. Hello? Tom called out. No response. Just silence. He was imagining things. Old houses make sounds. Wind in the walls. Animals in the crawl spaces. Nothing to worry about. 3 locks left. Tom broke the 5th lock. Crack. The chanting started again. Louder this time. Multiple voices, all chanting the same words over and over. Words Tom couldn't understand. His hands were shaking now. Maybe Jennifer was right. Maybe he should stop. Maybe he should leave this door locked. But he was so close now. Only 2 more locks. Tom positioned the bolt cutters around the 6th lock. This one was even harder than the others. The metal seemed stronger. He squeezed with all his might. His arms burned with effort. Finally, the lock broke. Crack. The chanting stopped abruptly. The basement was silent. Too silent. Tom couldn't even hear the sounds from upstairs. No creaking floorboards. No refrigerator humming. Nothing. 1 lock left. Tom looked at the last lock. It was the biggest one, made of some kind of strange metal that didn't look rusted at all despite its age. It almost seemed to glow slightly in the dim light. Tom's instincts screamed at him to stop, to run upstairs, to call someone, to leave this house and never come back. But he had come this far. 1 more lock, then he'd see what was back there. Probably nothing, probably just an empty room, and he'd feel stupid for being so scared. Tom placed the bolt cutters around the final lock. He squeezed. The metal resisted. He squeezed harder, harder, using every ounce of strength he had. The lock broke. Crack. It fell to the floor with a heavy thud. For a moment, nothing happened. Tom stood there, breathing hard, staring at the door. Then, slowly, the door began to open. By itself, no one was pushing it. It just swung inward on squeaking hinges. Behind the door was not a room. It was stairs. Stone stairs leading down into darkness. Not regular darkness. This was different. Deeper. Thicker. The kind of darkness that seemed solid. Tom shined his flashlight down the stairs, but the beam barely penetrated a few feet. The darkness seemed to swallow the light. And the smell. Oh God, the smell that came up from below. Tom gagged and covered his nose. It smelled like rot. Like death. Like 1,000 dead things decomposing in a pit. But there was another smell underneath. Something chemical. Something that burned his nostrils and made his eyes water. Tom should have closed the door right then. Should have run upstairs and called the police. Should have grabbed his family and left. But curiosity is a terrible, dangerous thing. Tom started down the stairs. Each stone step was worn smooth in the middle from centuries of footsteps. How many people had walked down these stairs? And when? And why? The temperature dropped with every step he descended. By the 10th step, Tom's breath was coming out in thick clouds. His fingers were numb with cold. The stairs went down much further than they should have. The basement was only about 8 feet below ground level. But Tom counted 20 steps, then 30, then 40. He was descending deep underground now, far below the foundation of the house. Finally, the stairs ended. Tom found himself in a chamber, a large chamber carved out of solid rock. His flashlight beam swept across the space. The walls were covered in symbols, the same symbols that were carved on the door, but here there were hundreds of them, thousands. They covered every inch of the walls and ceiling. And between the symbols were words, sentences, paragraphs, all in that strange ancient language. In the center of the chamber was a circle, drawn on the floor in something dark and crusty. Tom didn't want to know what it was. Inside the circle were more symbols, and in the very center of the circle was a hole, a deep hole descending even further into the earth. Tom walked closer to the hole. His footsteps echoed in the chamber. He reached the edge of the circle and stopped. He shouldn't cross the circle. Every instinct told him not to step inside it, but he needed to see what was in that hole. He needed to know. Tom stepped over the dark line and into the circle. The moment his foot crossed the line, everything changed. The temperature plummeted to freezing. Tom's breath came out in gasps. The symbols on the walls began to glow. Faintly at first, then brighter. A sickly green light that hurt to look at. And from the hole in the center of the circle came a sound. A sound that made Tom's blood turn to ice. Laughter. Deep, booming laughter that didn't sound human. It echoed up from the depths, getting louder, getting closer. Something was coming up from the hole. Tom could hear it climbing, scraping against the stone walls as it ascended. Getting closer with each second, Tom ran. He turned and sprinted back to the stairs. Behind him, he heard something emerge from the hole, something heavy pulling itself up onto the chamber floor, something dragging itself across the stone, chasing him. Tom took the stairs 3 at a time. His legs burned, his lungs screamed. He could hear it behind him, climbing the stairs, fast, too fast. He reached the top of the stairs and threw himself through the doorway into the basement. He grabbed the door and tried to slam it shut, but something was blocking it. Something was pushing from the other side. Tom pushed with all his strength. He screamed from the effort. Finally, the door slammed shut. Tom collapsed against it, gasping for air. Then he heard scratching on the other side. Slow scratching, like claws dragging across the wood. And that voice. That terrible voice speaking in that ancient language. The words sounded angry, hungry. Tom looked at the broken locks scattered on the dirt floor. He had nothing to secure the door. Nothing to keep it closed. The door began to open. Tom ran. He ran up the basement stairs, through the kitchen, out the front door. He got in his car and drove. He drove to the school and pulled Emma and Lucas out of class. He drove to Jennifer's work and told her they were leaving. Right now. No time to explain. But our stuff, Jennifer started. We're not going back. We're never going back. They drove to a hotel. Tom told Jennifer everything. She believed him immediately. She had felt something wrong about that door from the beginning. That night, Tom called the local police. He told them there was something in his basement. Something dangerous. They needed to send someone. The police went to the house. 2 officers. They went inside to investigate. Only one came back out. The officer who survived wouldn't talk about what he saw down there. He quit the police force the next week, moved to another state. The other officer was never found. The police searched the entire house, the basement, the chamber below. They found the hole in the center of the circle. They shined lights down into it. They dropped weighted ropes to measure the depth. The hole had no bottom. The ropes just kept going down and down and down. After 500 feet, they ran out of rope. The hole went deeper. The police sealed the house, condemned it, put up warning signs. Nobody was allowed inside, but those seals didn't last long. Someone broke them, or something broke them from the inside. The house stands empty now. The door to the basement stays open. Sometimes hikers passing by hear sounds coming from inside the house. Chanting, laughing, screaming. Local teenagers dare each other to go inside. Most refuse, a few accept the dare. They go in acting tough and brave. Most of them come running back out within minutes, pale and shaking, refusing to talk about what they saw. A few don't come back out at all. The police stopped investigating after the third disappearance. They just put up better warning signs. Keep out, danger, do not enter. But signs don't stop curiosity. Signs don't stop stupid people from making terrible decisions. Tom Henderson and his family never went back to Pennsylvania. They moved to Florida, somewhere warm and bright and far away from that farmhouse. They rent a small apartment now. Tom won't buy another house. Jennifer has nightmares about that door. The kids don't understand why they had to leave so suddenly, but they can see the fear in their parents' eyes whenever they ask about it. Sometimes late at night, Tom wakes up in a cold sweat. He thinks he hears that voice, that ancient voice chanting in the darkness, calling to him, telling him to come back, telling him there's unfinished business. And sometimes he feels a terrible urge to listen, to get in his car and drive north, to go back to that house, to descend those stairs one more time, to see what's truly in that hole. But he fights that urge. He fights it every single day, because he knows if he goes back, he'll never leave. He'll become one of the voices in the darkness, one of the things that calls to the next curious person who breaks those seals and opens that door. The door that should have stayed locked. The door that 7 locks couldn't keep closed forever. The door that leads to a place where things much older and much darker than humans wait patiently for fools to set them free. That door is still open, right now, waiting. And if you listen very carefully, on quiet nights, you might hear it calling for someone new, someone curious, someone foolish enough to descend those stairs and discover what lurks in the darkness below. Is it calling to you? Do you hear it? Maybe you should check your own basement, just to be sure. Just to make sure there's no old door hidden in the corner, no locks waiting to be broken, no stairs leading down to places that shouldn't exist. Go ahead. Check. I'll wait. Did you find anything? Story 3. The Woman in the Mirror. Ashley Martinez was 24 years old and finally independent. After years of living with roommates, she had saved enough money to rent her own apartment. Her own space. No more sharing a bathroom. No more loud roommates. No more drama. She found the perfect place through an online listing. A studio apartment in downtown Seattle. The rent was surprisingly affordable for the location. Big windows, hardwood floors, updated kitchen and bathroom. And best of all, it was available immediately. Ashley contacted the landlord, a man named Mr. Chen. He was in his 60s, quiet, polite. He agreed to meet her at the apartment for a viewing. The building was old, built in the 1920s. It had character. High ceilings. Original fixtures. The kind of place that had history. Ashley loved it immediately. Mr. Chen met her in the lobby. He didn't say much, just nodded and led her up the stairs to the 3rd floor. The apartment was at the end of the hall. When they walked in, Ashley fell in love. The space was small but perfect. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows. The hardwood floors gleamed. Everything looked clean and well-maintained. "Bathroom is through there," Mr. Chen said, pointing to a door. Ashley walked into the bathroom. It was small but nice, white tiles, a clawfoot tub with a shower, a pedestal sink, and a large mirror above the sink. The mirror was old, probably original to the building. It had an ornate gold frame, slightly tarnished with age. Ashley looked at her reflection. Something felt odd. She couldn't quite place it. The reflection looked right, but something about the mirror felt off. "The mirror is beautiful," Ashley said, walking back into the main room. "Is it original to the apartment?" Mr. Chen's expression changed. Just slightly, a flicker of something in his eyes. Sadness, fear? "Yes," he said quietly. "It's original. The previous tenant left it." "Oh, they moved out." Another pause. "She left. She didn't take anything. Just left." Ashley wanted to ask more, but Mr. Chen changed the subject. He showed her how to work the radiator, where the fuse box was, rules about garbage and recycling. Ashley signed the lease that day. She moved in 1 week later. The first night in her new apartment was perfect. Ashley ordered Thai food, drank wine, and watched Netflix on her laptop. She felt happy, proud. She had her own place. Around 11, she went to brush her teeth before bed. She stood at the bathroom sink, toothbrush in hand, looking at herself in the mirror. That's when she noticed something strange. Her reflection blinked. but Ashley hadn't blinked. She froze, toothbrush hanging from her mouth. She stared at her reflection. The reflection stared back. Everything looked normal now. Their eyes blinked together. Their chests rose and fell in rhythm. Ashley shook her head. She was tired. Her mind was playing tricks. That's all. She finished brushing her teeth and went to bed, but she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about that moment, the way her reflection had blinked independently. That was impossible, right? Reflections don't move on their own. They're just light bouncing off glass. Around 2 a.m, Ashley finally fell asleep. She woke up at 7 a.m. to her alarm. Time to get ready for work. She stumbled into the bathroom, still half asleep. She turned on the sink and splashed water on her face. When she looked up at the mirror, she gasped. Her reflection was smiling, but Ashley wasn't smiling. She was making a normal face, maybe slightly tired. Definitely not smiling, but the reflection smiled. A wide smile that showed too many teeth. Ashley's heart started pounding. She blinked hard, rubbed her eyes, looked again. Now the reflection was normal, matching her expression perfectly. Tired, confused, maybe a little scared. I need coffee, Ashley muttered to herself. I'm seeing things. She got ready for work, avoiding looking at the mirror as much as possible. At work, Ashley tried to focus, but her mind kept going back to the mirror. The independent blink, the smile that wasn't hers. What was happening? She tried to rationalize it. She was stressed. Moving is stressful. New apartment, new neighborhood. Her mind was just adjusting, playing tricks, but deep down she knew something was wrong. That evening, Ashley came home from work exhausted. She made dinner, watched TV, tried to relax, but she kept glancing at the bathroom door, nervous, dreading having to go in there. Finally, around 10 p.m., she needed to shower. She couldn't avoid it. Ashley walked into the bathroom. She deliberately didn't look at the mirror. She turned on the shower, waited for the water to warm up, and undressed with her eyes focused on the floor. She got in the shower and closed the curtain. The hot water felt good, relaxing. She started to calm down. She was being silly. There was nothing wrong with the mirror. Mirrors don't do anything except reflect. Ashley washed her hair, soaped her body, rinsed off. She turned off the water and reached for her towel. That's when she heard it. Humming. Someone was humming. A soft, tuneless melody. A woman's voice. Ashley froze. The shower curtain was still closed. She couldn't see the bathroom. Hello? Ashley called out. Her voice echoed off the tiles. The humming stopped. Ashley's hands were shaking as she pulled back the shower curtain. The bathroom was empty. No one there, just steam and her reflection in the mirror, except her reflection was facing the wrong way. Ashley was looking at the mirror straight on, but her reflection was turned slightly to the side, like it was looking at something else, something Ashley couldn't see. No, Ashley whispered. No, no, no. She grabbed her towel, wrapped it around herself, and ran out of the bathroom. She slammed the door shut behind her. Ashley stood in her main room, dripping water on the hardwood floor, breathing hard. What was happening? This was impossible. Reflections don't move independently. They don't look in different directions. She needed to call someone. But who? The landlord? And say what? Hi, my reflection is acting weird. They'd think she was crazy. Maybe she was crazy. Maybe she was having some kind of breakdown. Ashley didn't sleep that night. She stayed awake on her couch, lights on, TV playing quietly. Every time she looked at the bathroom door, she felt sick with fear. The next morning, exhausted and terrified, Ashley called Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen, I need to ask you something about the previous tenant. Silence on the other end of the line. Mr. Chen? Yes, he said finally. His voice sounded pained. What do you want to know? You said she left suddenly. Why? What happened? A long pause. I don't know the details. One day she called me screaming. She said she was leaving. She wouldn't tell me why. I went to the apartment. The door was unlocked. All her belongings were still there. Food still in the refrigerator. But she was gone. I never heard from her again. Did she say anything about the mirror? Another pause. Longer this time. How did you know? What do you mean? The tenant before her also left suddenly. She mentioned the mirror. She said something was wrong with it. But I looked at it. It's just a normal mirror. Old but normal. Ashley felt cold. How many tenants have left because of the mirror? You're the fourth renter since I bought this building 5 years ago. The first tenant lived there for 6 months. Then she left in a hurry. The second tenant lasted 3 months. The third tenant only stayed 2 weeks. Why didn't you tell me this? Because it's just a mirror. Mr. Chen's voice rose. I've had it examined. There's nothing unusual about it. I think the tenants were just unstable. Or maybe it's a coincidence. Then why don't you just replace it? Silence, Mr. Chen. I tried, he said quietly. 3 times. Every time I remove it and install a new mirror, the old one is back the next day. I don't know how. I don't know why. I thought maybe if I just ignored it, it would stop. Ashley hung up the phone. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She spent the day researching. Searching online for information about cursed mirrors, haunted apartments, paranormal activity. She found dozens of stories. Hundreds. People all over the world reporting strange experiences with mirrors, but none of them quite matched what Ashley was experiencing. That night, Ashley considered staying at a hotel, but she didn't have the money. She'd just paid first and last month's rent plus security deposit. Her bank account was nearly empty. She had to stay in the apartment, at least for tonight. Ashley decided she just wouldn't use the bathroom mirror. Simple. She'd brush her teeth at the kitchen sink. She'd get ready for work without looking. She'd avoid the mirror completely. Around midnight, Ashley finally felt tired enough to try sleeping. She lay in bed, lights off, trying to calm her racing mind. She was almost asleep when she heard it again, humming, that same tuneless melody. Coming from the bathroom, Ashley sat up. The bathroom door was closed. A thin line of light showed underneath it, but Ashley hadn't left the light on. The humming got louder. Then came another sound. Water running. The sink was on. Ashley wanted to hide under her covers and pretend she heard nothing. But she knew she had to confront this. Whatever this was. She got out of bed and walked slowly to the bathroom door. Her hand reached for the doorknob. She hesitated. The humming stopped. The water shut off. Ashley turned the doorknob and pushed the door open. The bathroom light was on. The sink was wet, like someone had just been using it. And in the mirror, a woman stood behind Ashley, staring at her with hollow, dark eyes. The woman looked young, maybe 30. She had long black hair and pale skin and wore a white nightgown. Ashley screamed and spun around. Nobody there. The bathroom was empty. She turned back to the mirror. The woman was still there, standing right behind Ashley's reflection, smiling now. A terrible smile. Ashley ran. She grabbed her phone, her wallet, her keys. She didn't even put on shoes. She just ran out of the apartment in her pajamas and bare feet. She ran down the stairs and out into the street. It was cold. It was dark. But she didn't care. She ran to her car and drove. She drove to her best friend Carla's apartment and pounded on the door. Carla opened it, confused and worried. Ashley? What's wrong? Ashley collapsed in her friend's arms, sobbing. I can't go back there. I can't. There's something in my apartment. In the mirror. I saw her. Carla brought Ashley inside, made her tea, wrapped a blanket around her. Tell me everything, Ashley told her. Everything. The blink. The smile. The humming. The woman in the mirror. Carla listened quietly. When Ashley finished, Carla didn't look skeptical. She looked scared. We need to break that mirror, Carla said. The landlord said he tried removing it. It just comes back. Then we destroy it. Smash it into a million pieces. Burn the pieces. Whatever it takes. The next morning, Carla and Ashley went back to the apartment together. It was daylight. Bright sun coming through the windows. Everything looked normal. Safe. They walked into the bathroom. Ashley forced herself to look at the mirror. Just a normal reflection. Just herself and Carla. Nothing strange, you see? Carla said. It's just a mirror. Maybe it's only active at night. Maybe, Ashley said. But she didn't believe it. They spent 20 minutes examining the mirror, looking for anything unusual. Carla even took photos with her phone. I'm going to do some research, Carla said. Old mirrors, paranormal activity, Seattle history. There has to be an explanation. Ashley nodded. I'm going to stay at a hotel until we figure this out. Good idea. Ashley packed a bag while Carla examined the mirror one more time. Ashley, Carla said. Her voice sounded strange. Come look at this. Ashley walked into the bathroom. What? Carla pointed at the mirror. Look at the edges of the frame. See these marks? Ashley looked. There were small symbols carved into the gold frame. Very small, easy to miss. They looked old, worn. What kind of symbols are those? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Carla took close-up photos of the symbols. They left the apartment together. 2 days later, Carla called Ashley. She sounded excited and terrified. I figured it out. The symbols on the mirror. They're from an old occult language. A professor at the university helped me translate them. What do they say? They're a binding spell. A spell to trap something. Or someone. Ashley felt cold. Trap what? I don't know. But Ashley, I found something else. I researched the building's history. In 1952, a woman died in your apartment. Her name was Evelyn Foster. She was 32 years old. She died in the bathroom. How? The records say she fell and hit her head on the sink. But Ashley, there's more. 2 weeks before she died, she told her sister that she kept seeing a woman in her bathroom mirror. A woman who looked exactly like her. Ashley couldn't breathe. A woman who looked like her. Her sister thought she was going crazy. But then Evelyn died. And here's the strangest part. When they found her body, her face was different. Different how? The police report says she looked 10 years older. Like she'd aged rapidly. And her sister swore it wasn't Evelyn. She said the body looked like Evelyn, but something was wrong. Like it was a copy. An imperfect copy. Ashley dropped the phone. She understood now. The woman in the mirror. She wasn't a ghost. She was something worse. She was a replacement. Every tenant who'd run away in fear had saved themselves. But Evelyn Foster hadn't run. She'd stayed. And the thing in the mirror had taken her place. It had stolen her life, her body, her existence. And now it wanted Ashley. Ashley never went back to the apartment. She broke the lease, lost her security deposit, lost her rent money. She moved back in with her parents. Mr. Chen rented the apartment to someone new a month later. A young man named David. He lasted 3 days. The apartment sits empty now. Mr. Chen can't find anyone willing to stay. Word has spread online. Reviews on apartment websites warn people to avoid that building. Avoid that apartment. Avoid that mirror. But the mirror waits. Patient, eternal. Always hungry for new reflections. New lives to steal. New people to replace. And somewhere in Seattle, a woman who looks exactly like Evelyn Foster still walks the streets. She looks human. She acts human. But she's not. She's the reflection that escaped the mirror 70 years ago, living the life she stole. How many others are out there? How many reflections have escaped their glass prisons and stolen human lives? How many people you pass on the street are really just mirrors wearing human skin? Look at yourself in the mirror tonight. Look closely. Does your reflection look exactly like you? Are you sure? How can you really know? And when you blink, pay attention. Make sure your reflection blinks at exactly the same time. Because if it doesn't, you need to run. Run far and fast, before it's too late, before the thing in the mirror takes your face, your body, your life. Before you become the reflection, and the reflection becomes you. Story 4. The Children in the Attic. Rebecca Turner was 36 years old and finally ready to start over. After a painful divorce that took 2 years to finalize, she needed a fresh start, a new city, a new job, a new life. She accepted a teaching position in Portland, Maine. She'd never been to Maine before, but she liked the idea of living near the ocean. Something peaceful, something different from the chaos of her old life. Finding a place to live was harder than she expected. Portland was expensive. Every apartment she could afford was either too small or in a rough neighborhood. She was getting desperate. School started in 2 weeks and she still had nowhere to live. Then she found the house on Ashwood Lane. It wasn't an apartment. It was a whole house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a big kitchen, hardwood floors throughout, a fenced backyard. And the rent was shockingly low, almost half what other houses in the area were charging. Rebecca called the number on the listing immediately. A woman answered. She sounded elderly. Her voice was shaky. Hello, I'm calling about the house for rent on Ashwood Lane. Yes, yes. Are you interested? The woman sounded eager. Too eager. I'd love to see it. When can I come by? Right now if you want. I'm here at the house. I'll wait for you. Rebecca drove over immediately. The house was in a nice neighborhood. Tree-lined streets, well-maintained homes, kids riding bikes. It looked safe and friendly. The house itself was beautiful. A Victorian-style home painted light blue with white trim. It had a wraparound porch and a tower room on one side. The kind of house Rebecca had dreamed about living in as a child. An old woman was waiting on the porch. She looked about 75 years old, thin and frail with white hair pulled back in a bun. She wore a floral dress and held a cane. You must be Rebecca. I'm Margaret Walsh. This is my house. Well, it was my house. I'm moving to a retirement home next week. My children insist. They say I'm too old to live alone. Margaret's hands shook as she unlocked the front door. Rebecca noticed tears in the old woman's eyes. Are you okay? Rebecca asked gently. Oh, yes, dear. Just sad to leave this place. I've lived here for 52 years. Raised my family here. But I suppose it's time. The inside of the house was even better than the outside. High ceilings, original crown molding, a beautiful staircase with a carved wooden banister. The furniture was old-fashioned but well-kept. Antiques everywhere. Will the furniture stay? Rebecca asked. If you want it. I'm only taking a few personal items. My new place is small. I don't have room for much. They walked through the downstairs. Living room, dining room, kitchen with vintage appliances that still worked. A small bathroom. Everything was clean and maintained. Upstairs are 3 bedrooms, Margaret said. And one more bathroom up there. They climbed the stairs. Margaret moved slowly, gripping the railing. Her breathing was labored. The bedrooms were spacious. Sunlight streamed through large windows. The master bedroom had the tower room attached to it. A perfect little reading nook with windows on 3 sides. It's perfect, Rebecca said. Absolutely perfect, Margaret smiled. But the smile looked sad. Forced. There is one thing, Margaret said quietly. The attic, what about it? I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll never go up there. Never open the attic door, never, not for any reason. Rebecca laughed nervously. Why, what's up there? Margaret's expression became serious, almost frightened. Promise me, please. Just stay out of the attic. Okay, Rebecca said slowly. I promise. But why? Don't ask questions. Just promise me you'll keep that door locked. The key is hanging on a hook by the door. Don't ever use it. Please. The intensity in Margaret's voice was unsettling. But Rebecca really wanted this house. And she had no reason to go in the attic anyway. What did she care? I promise, Rebecca said. They went back downstairs and Rebecca signed the lease. Margaret seemed relieved. Almost too relieved. Like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. 1 week later, Rebecca moved in. The first few days were wonderful. Rebecca loved the house. She loved the neighborhood. She spent her time unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, exploring the local area. Everything felt right, like this was where she was supposed to be. She started her new teaching job. 5th grade. The kids were great. Her coworkers were friendly. Life was good, better than it had been in years. Rebecca was happy, but on her 10th night in the house, something changed. Rebecca was in bed reading when she heard it. A sound from above. From the attic, footsteps, small footsteps, light and quick. Like a child running, Rebecca sat up and listened. The footsteps moved across the attic floor directly above her bedroom. Back and forth. Back and forth, maybe an animal got in. A raccoon or squirrel. Old houses always have animals in the attic, right? But the footsteps didn't sound like an animal. They sounded human. They sounded like a child. Rebecca tried to ignore it. She went back to reading. But the footsteps continued. For 20 minutes, they ran back and forth above her head. Then they stopped. Rebecca waited in silence. Nothing. Just quiet. She turned off the light and tried to sleep. But she kept thinking about those footsteps. And she kept thinking about Margaret's warning. Never go in the attic. Why? What was up there? The next morning, Rebecca examined the attic door. It was in the hallway on the 2nd floor. A small door set into the ceiling with a pull-down ladder. A padlock hung from the latch. The key was hanging on a hook nearby, just like Margaret said. Rebecca stared at the lock. She could just open it. Just take a quick look. See what was up there. Maybe there was a broken window and animals were getting in. She should check. She should make sure the house was secure, but she had promised Margaret. And something about Margaret's fear had been real, genuine. The old woman had been terrified of something. Rebecca decided to leave the attic alone. That night, the footsteps came back. Louder this time, more frantic, running back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes it sounded like one child. Sometimes it sounded like several children, all running and playing above her head. Rebecca called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" The footsteps stopped immediately. Silence. Then, a new sound. Laughter. Children's laughter. High-pitched and echoing. Coming from the attic, then one voice. A girl's voice. Young. Maybe 7 or 8 years old. "Come play with us." Rebecca's blood turned to ice. She jumped out of bed and turned on all the lights. Her heart was pounding. "Come play with us," the voice said again. Sing-song. Sweet. But something about it sounded wrong. Off. "Who are you?" Rebecca called out, giggling. Multiple children giggling. "Come find us. Come to the attic. Come play." "No," Rebecca said. Her voice was shaking. "No, I'm not coming up there." The laughter stopped. The attic went silent. But Rebecca couldn't sleep. She sat up all night with the lights on, listening, waiting. But the sounds didn't come back. The next morning, exhausted and frightened, Rebecca called Margaret. The old woman answered on the first ring. "Rebecca? What's wrong?" "The attic. There's something in the attic. I heard children. Footsteps and voices. What's up there?" Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Rebecca could hear her breathing. Shaky. Frightened. "You didn't open it, did you? Please tell me you didn't open the attic." "No, I didn't. But Margaret, what's going on?" "You need to leave that house. Right now. Pack your things and leave." "What? I just moved in. I signed a lease." "Margaret, just tell me what's happening." Another long pause. Then Margaret spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "They died in that attic, 50 years ago. My children." Rebecca felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. "What?" "I had 3 children. Emily was 8. Thomas was 6. Sarah was 4. One winter day, they were playing in the attic. I was downstairs making dinner. I didn't hear anything. Nothing at all. When I went to call them for dinner, I found them. In the attic. They were just lying there. All 3 of them. Not breathing. Just lying in a circle holding hands. Oh my God. How did they die?" The doctors didn't know. They couldn't find a cause. No injuries. No illness. No carbon monoxide. Nothing. They just died. All 3 at the same time. Rebecca could hear Margaret crying. "I couldn't live in that house anymore," Margaret continued. "Too many memories. Too much pain. So I moved away. I rented the house out. But every tenant who stayed there heard them. The children in the attic. Playing. Laughing. Calling for people to come play with them. Why didn't you tell me this?" "Because I need the rental income. My medical bills. The retirement home is expensive. I need the money. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Rebecca felt angry and scared and betrayed. "I'm breaking the lease. I'm leaving. No. Please, just stay. Don't go in the attic. Don't talk to them. They can't hurt you if you don't go up there." "How do you know that?" "Because other tenants stayed. People who could ignore the sounds. They lived there for months. Years. Nothing bad happened to them. As long as they stayed out of the attic, they were fine." "What happens if someone goes in the attic?" Silence. "Margaret? What happens?" "They don't come back down." Rebecca hung up the phone. Her hands were shaking. She looked up at the attic door. The padlock gleamed in the hallway light. She should leave. She should pack her stuff and find another place. But she'd already paid first and last month's rent plus security deposit. She couldn't afford to lose that money. She couldn't afford to move again. Maybe Margaret was right. Maybe if she just ignored the sounds, everything would be fine. That night, Rebecca tried to sleep. The footsteps came again. Running back and forth, she put in earplugs and pulled the pillow over her head. Eventually exhaustion won and she fell asleep. Days passed, then weeks. Rebecca got used to the sounds. She learned to ignore them. The children would run and play every night. Sometimes they called out to her. Sometimes they sang strange songs, but she never responded. She never acknowledged them. She could live with this. It was just sounds, just voices. They couldn't hurt her. Then one night, something changed. Rebecca was sleeping when she felt something touch her face. A small hand, a child's hand. Stroking her cheek gently, she opened her eyes. A little girl stood beside her bed. She looked about 8 years old. She wore an old-fashioned dress. Her hair was in pigtails. She looked solid, real, not transparent like a ghost in movies. The girl smiled. "Hi, I'm Emily. Want to play?" Rebecca screamed and jumped out of bed. She turned on the light. The girl was gone. But standing in the doorway were 2 more children. A boy and a younger girl. They stared at Rebecca with blank, empty eyes. "Come play with us," they said in unison. "No." "Get out! Leave me alone!" The children didn't move. They just stared. Rebecca grabbed her phone and ran past them. She ran down the stairs and out the front door. She sat in her car, shaking, crying, until the sun came up. She couldn't stay there anymore. She didn't care about the money. She didn't care about the lease. She was leaving. But when Rebecca went back inside to pack, something was wrong. The attic door was open. The ladder was pulled down. The padlock lay on the floor, still locked. But somehow the door had been opened. "No," Rebecca whispered. "No, no, no, Rebecca," a child's voice from above. "Come to the attic. We want to show you something." "I'm not going up there." "Yes, you are. You have to. It's the rules." "What rules?" "We came down. Now you have to come up." "That's how it works." Rebecca ran to the front door. She grabbed the handle and pulled. The door wouldn't open. It was locked from the inside. But there was no lock. Just a regular doorknob. It should open. But it wouldn't. She ran to the back door. Same thing, locked, wouldn't budge the windows. She ran to a window and tried to open it. It wouldn't move, like it was sealed shut. "You have to come up," the children's voices said. They were closer now. On the stairs. "Coming down." Rebecca backed into a corner. "What do you want from me?" "We're lonely. We've been alone for so long. We need someone to play with. Forever." "I can't. I'm not a child. I'm an adult. That's okay. You'll change. Everyone who comes to the attic changes. They become like us, and then we're not lonely anymore." Rebecca looked around desperately for a weapon. For anything. She grabbed a heavy candlestick from a table. The 3 children appeared in the living room. They moved in unison, synchronized. They smiled identical smiles. "Don't make this hard," Emily said. "It doesn't hurt. You just fall asleep. And when you wake up, you're one of us. You'll play with us forever and ever and ever. Stay back." Rebecca swung the candlestick. The children didn't react. They kept walking toward her. Slow, steady, inevitable. Rebecca had no choice. She ran for the stairs. Maybe she could lock herself in a bedroom. Maybe she could break a window from upstairs. But the children were faster. They appeared at the top of the stairs, blocking her path. "Wrong way," Thomas said. "The attic is up, not in the bedrooms." They herded her, like predators hunting prey. Every time Rebecca tried to go one direction, they appeared there, blocking her, guiding her toward the hallway, toward the open attic door, toward the ladder leading up into darkness. "No," Rebecca sobbed. "Please, I don't want to go up there." "Everyone says that at first," Sarah said. "But it's nice up there. You'll see. We have toys. We have games. We have forever to play." Rebecca had her back to the attic ladder now. The children advanced. Their faces were no longer sweet and innocent. They looked hungry, desperate. "Wrong, please," Rebecca begged. "Let me go. I'll leave and never come back. I won't tell anyone. Please." "Too late," all 3 children said together. "You have to come up now. The attic demands it. The house demands it. We demand it." They rushed forward. Rebecca screamed. The police found Rebecca's car in the driveway 3 days later. A concerned coworker had called when Rebecca didn't show up to work and wasn't answering her phone. The front door was unlocked. The police went inside and searched the house. They found Rebecca's purse on the kitchen counter. Her phone, her keys, her wallet, everything was there. But Rebecca was gone. They searched the entire house. The basement, the bedrooms, the yard. Nothing. Finally, one officer noticed the attic door was open. He climbed the ladder and looked inside. The attic was empty except for some old boxes and forgotten furniture. Dust covered everything. There was no sign of Rebecca. But on the attic floor, drawn in the dust, were the words, "Forever and ever and ever," and 4 sets of footprints. 3 small sets, children's footprints, and 1 adult set leading to the center of the attic and then just stopping. Like Rebecca had vanished into thin air. The police ruled it a missing person case. They searched for weeks. They questioned everyone. They investigated every possibility. But they never found Rebecca Turner. The house on Ashwood Lane sits empty now. Margaret Walsh died 6 months after Rebecca disappeared. Heart attack. The house was sold to a new owner. The new owner plans to renovate it, turn it into apartments. He hasn't moved in yet. He's still getting permits and hiring contractors. But sometimes late at night, neighbors see lights on in the attic. And they hear children laughing, playing, running back and forth. And sometimes they hear another voice. An adult woman's voice, singing children's songs, playing children's games. 4 voices now instead of 3. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear them calling out into the night. Come play with us. Come to the attic. We're so lonely. We need more friends. Won't you come play, please? We'll play forever and ever and ever. The attic waits. The children wait. Always hungry for new playmates. Always lonely. Always calling, do you hear them? Are they calling to you? Maybe you should check your own attic tonight, just to be sure. Just to make sure nobody's up there waiting, listening, calling your name in the darkness. Go ahead. Climb up and look. They promise it won't hurt. They promise you'll like it. They promise you'll never want to leave. Story 5. The Basement Tenant. Kevin Park was a college student trying to save money. His parents had cut him off financially after he changed his major for the 3rd time. They said he needed to learn responsibility, pay his own way, figure out his life, so Kevin needed a cheap place to live. Really cheap. College town rent was expensive. He couldn't afford a normal apartment. He was desperate. That's when he found the listing on Craigslist. A basement room for rent, utilities included, month to month, and the price was almost too good to be true. Half what other places charged. Kevin called the number. A man answered. His voice was rough and unfriendly. Yeah, the room's still available. You can come look at it tonight if you want. After 9 o'clock. Why after 9? That's when I'm free. You want to see it or not? Yeah, I do. What's the address? The house was on the edge of town. Not in a terrible neighborhood, but not great either. The kind of area where you lock your car doors. The house itself was small and run down. Peeling paint. Overgrown yard. Broken shutters. Kevin almost didn't get out of his car. But he needed a place to live. And the price was right. He knocked on the door. A man opened it. He was probably 40 years old. Overweight. Balding. He wore a stained t-shirt and sweatpants. He didn't smile. You Kevin? Yeah. I'm Dale, come in. The inside of the house was messy. Not dirty exactly, just cluttered. Piles of newspapers. Stacks of boxes. The furniture looked old and worn. The house smelled like cigarettes and old food. The room's downstairs, Dale said. He led Kevin to a door and opened it. Wooden stairs descended into darkness. Dale flipped a light switch and started down. Kevin followed. The basement was unfinished. Concrete floor, exposed pipes on the ceiling, cinder block walls. In one corner was a small room built from cheap wood paneling. A door led into it. This is it, Dale said, opening the door. The room was tiny, maybe 8 feet by 10 feet. There was a twin bed, a small dresser, and a lamp. One small window near the ceiling looked out at ground level. That was it. Bathroom's upstairs, Dale said. You can use the kitchen too. Just clean up after yourself. Rent's due on the 1st of the month. Cash only, no guests. No noise after 10 p.m., got it? Kevin looked around the depressing little room. It was basically a cell, but it was cheap, and he was desperate. I'll take it. Dale nodded. 1st month's rent up front. You can move in tomorrow. Kevin moved in the next day. He didn't have much. Some clothes, his laptop, a few books. He unpacked everything in 20 minutes. That first night, Kevin lay on the uncomfortable bed and stared at the ceiling. He could hear Dale walking around upstairs. Heavy footsteps. Back and forth. The TV playing loudly. He could hear Dale talking to himself. Or maybe on the phone. It was hard to tell. Kevin put in his earbuds and tried to sleep. Around 2 a.m, Kevin woke up. Something had disturbed his sleep. A sound. He pulled out his earbuds and listened. Scratching, coming from the wall beside his bed, like fingernails dragging across the cinder blocks on the other side. Kevin sat up and turned on the lamp. The scratching stopped. He looked at the wall. Just gray cinder blocks. Nothing unusual. Probably a mouse or rat in the walls. Old houses had rodents. No big deal. Kevin turned off the lamp and lay back down. The scratching didn't come back. He fell asleep. The next day, Kevin mentioned the scratching to Dale. "Yeah, there might be some mice," Dale said without interest. "I'll put out traps." But the scratching came back the next night. Louder, more persistent. And it moved along the wall, like something was crawling beside Kevin's bed, scratching as it went. Kevin turned on the light again. The scratching stopped. In the morning, Kevin examined the wall carefully. And that's when he noticed something strange. The paneling on one wall didn't quite match up. There was a seam running vertically from floor to ceiling, like maybe there used to be a door there that had been covered up. Kevin pressed his hand against the seam. The paneling felt thin, cheap. He could easily punch through it if he wanted to. Why would someone cover up a doorway? What was on the other side? That evening, Kevin asked Dale about it. "There used to be another room back there," Dale said. "I sealed it off. Had some water damage. Mold, not safe. That's why I built this new room for renters." "What was the old room used for?" Dale's expression changed. He looked annoyed. "Storage. Just a storage room." "Why are you asking so many questions?" "No reason. Just curious." "Well, don't be. You rented the room as is. If you don't like it, leave." Kevin backed off. He didn't want to piss off his landlord. He needed this place even if it sucked. But he couldn't stop thinking about that sealed-off room. What was behind that wall? And what was making the scratching sounds? The scratching came every night. Always around 2 a.m. Always along that same wall. Kevin tried to ignore it. He wore earplugs. He listened to music. But he could still hear it. Scratching. Scraping. Sometimes it sounded like tapping, like someone knocking, trying to get his attention. 1 week after Kevin moved in, he heard something new. A voice, faint, muffled, coming from behind the wall. "Help me." Kevin sat up fast. His heart was pounding. He pressed his ear against the wall and listened. "Help me, please. I can't get out." It was a man's voice. Young. Weak. Frightened. "Hello?" Kevin called. "Who's there?" "Please help me. He locked me in here. I can't get out, please." "Who locked you in? Dale?" "Yes, please. You have to let me out. I've been in here so long. Please." Kevin backed away from the wall. His mind was racing. This didn't make sense. Was someone actually trapped behind that wall? Or was he hearing things? Was this some kind of prank? "How long have you been in there?" Kevin asked. "I don't know. Months. Maybe a year. I can't tell anymore. It's so dark. Please help me." Kevin didn't know what to do. If someone was really trapped behind that wall, he needed to call the police. But what if it wasn't real? What if Dale heard him calling the cops and got pissed? What if this was just pipes or settling or his imagination? "Who are you?" Kevin asked. "My name is Jason. Jason Reeves. I rented this room before you. Dale said I violated the lease. He said I had to be punished. He locked me in here, please. You have to believe me. You have to get help." Kevin's hands were shaking. This was insane. People don't lock other people in walls. This had to be fake. Had to be. "I'm going to call the police," Kevin said. "No." The voice became desperate, panicked. "Don't call them yet. He'll hear you. He's always listening. You need to wait until he leaves the house. Then you can break through the wall. Please, just break through and let me out. Then we can call the police together." Something about that didn't feel right. Kevin's instincts were screaming at him. "How do I know you're real?" Kevin asked. Silence. Then the voice spoke again. Different this time. Colder. "You're just like the others. You don't want to help. You don't care. Fine. Stay in your little room. Ignore me, but you'll end up like me. You'll see. Dale will put you in here too. Everyone who rents this room ends up in here eventually. Everyone." Kevin ran upstairs. He burst into the main floor of the house. Dale was sitting on the couch watching TV. "There's someone behind the wall," Kevin said. His voice was shaking. Someone's trapped down there. We need to call the police. Dale's face didn't change. He just stared at Kevin calmly. No, there's not. I heard him. He said his name is Jason. Jason Reeves. He said you locked him in there. Dale stood up slowly. He was a big man. Much bigger than Kevin. There's nobody down there. You're hearing things. Then let me break through the wall. Let me see for myself. No. Why not? Because it's my house and I said no. You want to leave? Leave. I'll keep your rent. But you're not breaking my walls. Kevin pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Dale moved fast for a big man. He crossed the room and grabbed Kevin's wrist. Hard. The phone fell to the floor. You're not calling anyone, Dale said. His voice was quiet, threatening. You're going to go back downstairs. You're going to stay in your room. And you're going to stop asking questions. Understand? Kevin was terrified, but he nodded. Dale let go of his wrist. Good. Now get out of my sight. Kevin went back downstairs. His whole body was shaking. He sat on his bed and tried to think. He needed to get out of this house. Tonight. Right now. He started packing his things. He would leave. Forget the rent money. This place was insane and Dale was dangerous. Then the voice came again from the wall. You're leaving, aren't you? You're going to abandon me just like all the others. I'm sorry, Kevin whispered. I don't know what's real. I don't know if you're actually there, but I can't stay here. If you leave, I'll die in here. Is that what you want? You want my death on your conscience? Then I'll call the police from somewhere safe. I'll send them here to check. They won't find me. Dale is clever. He knows how to hide things. Please, you're my only chance. Kevin grabbed his backpack and headed for the door. He had to get out. Now. But when he reached the top of the basement stairs, the door was locked. He twisted the handle. Pulled, pushed. Nothing. It wouldn't open. Dale! Kevin pounded on the door. Dale, let me out! No response. Kevin could hear the TV playing. Dale was up there, ignoring him. Kevin pulled out his phone to call 911. No signal. The basement was too deep. He couldn't get reception. He ran back down the stairs. The small window. He could break it and climb out. Kevin grabbed his dresser and pushed it under the window. He climbed on top and tried to open the window. It was painted shut. He punched it, but the glass was thick, reinforced. It wouldn't break. You can't leave, the voice said from the wall. Nobody leaves. Dale makes sure of that. Kevin jumped off the dresser and stared at the sealed wall. He needed to know. He needed to see what was behind there. He started tearing at the paneling with his hands. The thin wood splintered and came away easily. Behind it was more cinder block. But in the middle was a wooden door, locked with a heavy padlock. Yes, the voice said. You found it. Break the lock! Let me out! Kevin looked around for something to break the lock. There was nothing, no tools. No weapons, hurry! The voice urged. He's coming. He knows what you're doing. He's coming. Kevin could hear footsteps above. Heavy footsteps. Moving toward the basement door, Kevin threw his shoulder against the locked door. Pain shot through his arm, but the door didn't budge. The basement door opened. Dale's footsteps on the stairs. Coming down. Break it, the voice screamed. Break the door. Let me out! Kevin rammed the door again. And again. The old wood started to crack around the lock. Dale reached the bottom of the stairs. He held something in his hand, a bat. A baseball bat. You should have listened, Dale said calmly. Kevin gave one final desperate shove. The door broke open. He looked inside the sealed room. It was empty. Completely empty. Just cinder block walls and a concrete floor. No furniture, no person. No Jason, nothing. But I heard... Kevin turned around. Dale smiled. It was not a nice smile. They all hear it, Dale said. Every single renter hears the voice, begging for help. And eventually they all try to break through. And then I have to deal with them. What are you talking about? The house calls to people. It needs feeding. It chooses who. First it calls them here with the cheap rent. Then it makes them hear the voice. Makes them curious. Makes them break the seal. And when they do, Dale gestured to the empty room. That's when they become the voice. That's when they go behind the wall, to wait for the next renter. Kevin tried to run, but Dale was blocking the stairs. He swung the bat. Kevin woke up in darkness. Complete darkness. He was lying on a cold, hard floor. He tried to move, but his whole body ached. Where was he? He felt around. Cinder block walls on all sides. A small space. Very small. He reached up and touched a low ceiling. Also cinder block. He was in a box. A concrete box. Kevin screamed. He pounded on the walls. Kicked. Scratched. Nothing. The walls were solid. Thick. Nobody would hear him. Help! Help! Let me out! Please, no response. Just silence. Kevin screamed until his voice was gone. He pounded until his hands were bloody. He kicked until his feet were broken. Days passed. Or maybe hours. Kevin couldn't tell in the darkness. He had no food, no water. His phone was gone. His voice was a raspy whisper. He was going to die here. But then he heard something. Footsteps above. Someone walking around in the basement. A new renter. Someone else had moved into that room. Kevin gathered what was left of his strength. He dragged himself to the wall and scratched his fingernails against it. And then he spoke. His voice barely a whisper. Help me. Please. I can't get out. Those were 5 true stories about people who moved into new homes. People who thought they were starting fresh. People who learned too late that some houses have secrets. Dark secrets. Deadly secrets. Sarah and Michael escaped the breathing walls. But others didn't. The house on Maple Grove Road still waits for new victims. Tom Henderson ran from the door in the basement. But that door stands open now, waiting for the next curious person to descend those stairs. Ashley Martinez got away from the woman in the mirror. But the mirror waits in that apartment, patient, ready to steal another life, another face. Rebecca Turner didn't escape. She's in the attic now, playing forever with the children who wouldn't let her leave. And Kevin Park? He's still behind that wall. Right now, scratching, calling, begging the new renter to help him, to break through, to let him out. These stories are real. These houses exist. Right now, in cities across America. Maybe in your city, maybe on your street. And maybe, just maybe, you've already walked past one. Maybe you've already looked at one online. Maybe you've already called about one because the rent was so cheap. Before you sign that lease, ask yourself, why is it so affordable? Why did the previous tenants leave? What secrets are hiding in the walls, the basement, the attic, the mirror? And when you move in, pay attention. Listen to the sounds your new house makes. Watch for things that don't belong. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Because some houses don't want owners. Some houses want victims. Sleep well tonight in your bed. In your house. In your safe, familiar home. Unless it's not as safe as you think. Unless it's been waiting for you all along. Unless right now, while you're watching this video, something in your house is watching back. Did you hear that? That sound just now? That creak? That whisper? That scratching behind your wall? Maybe it's nothing. Probably it's nothing. Old houses make sounds, right? Right? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, leave a like and subscribe for more true horror. And remember, when you're house hunting, always ask about the history. Always check the basement. Always look in the attic. Always test the mirrors. And always read the fine print before you sign. Because some mistakes can't be undone. Sweet dreams.